uncomfortable zone. We all look for toughness. We all want it, but we look for it in a comfortable environment. You will not find toughness in a comfortable environment. Those of you who are listening to this, you will not find it. The only way you find it is to drown yourself in a position where you're just out of sorts, where you can't swim and you're drowning. Where you're drowning.
Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel called I Talk Truth, and today I just basically want to talk about a few what we're going to call the big five for any spiritual practice to go where it's aiming to go. So it's just the big five to make sure that we're doing the right thing so that all our efforts are not going to waste and we can go where the practice is aiming to go. So the big five, we're going to have religion / a set way that you live. We're going to have tool / meditation. Then we're going to have discipline / taming the senses. Number 4, we're going to have patience and endurance. And number 5, we have faith. So we're going to start with number 1, religion, a set way that you will live your life. So this is just basically a way that you choose to live your life. It's as simple as it sounds. This could be a religion that's already been made, which is what is recommended, because a lot of people try to make their own religion. And the flaw with that is that your own religion will be tainted with your own selfishness. And it will hinder you if you practice trying to do it on your own. Maybe there is a set few group of people that can do it on their own, but many of us, including myself, that wouldn't be the way to go, because we tried doing it on our own our life and it didn't work, which is why we're on this path in the first place. So it's best to adopt a practice. I don't choose a certain practice. There's one I gravitate towards the most. That's Buddhism and Christianity, but more Buddhism because it has a very specific way to do it. Christianity tells me what to do. It gives me the words, but it doesn't tell me the method. Buddhism gives me a lot of the method, so I kind of balance the two. So it's up to you. I suggest not do it your own, though. Do not do that. We cannot do that there. All right. Number 2, we have tools. What tools will you use to get to the aim that you're trying to get to? What are the tools you're using? You can't just say, I'm going to do it, and it's going to just happen and snap into place. You have to have certain tools. And when I say tools, the main tool is meditation. You must have a solid foundation of meditation. It doesn't matter which type of meditation you practice as long as your intentions are pure. If your intentions are pure, if you are practicing the wrong form of things, or your mind has the wrong view of things, everything will balance out eventually and you'll come to the truth. That's the thing. If your intentions are pure, whether you're practicing wrongly or rightly, you'll come to the truth. Of course, you're not 100% there yet. Of course, we're not. That's why we started the path, and you'll get closer and closer as you go until you get to that very truth that can't be denied, and all your work would have been worthwhile. Number 3, we have discipline and taming the senses. You can't do the practice if you're not willing to say no to your desires and say no to yourself. If you can't say no to yourself, then it's not going to work. You can do all the meditation you want. You could read all the Bible. You could read the Bible 30 times. You can read the Buddhist scriptures millions of times. Without discipline and taming the senses, your efforts, they won't be true because you're still given to the same things that are causing you the suffering in the first place. So until you can see clearly that what's causing me the suffering is not this or that, and that what's causing you the suffering is usually most of the time the things you love the most. You think it's the things you don't like that's causing you sufferings, but the very things that your heart adores the most are the very things that cause you to suffer greatly. Whatever is a source of great happiness and pleasure will in turn be a great source of sorrow and pain. That's just inevitable. That's if it's a greater happiness and pleasure, and it's a material thing, let me say that, then it will also be a great source of sorrow and pain. What made you happy and feel great at one time will at another time make you sad, miserable, and it will make you feel horrible. So yeah, it's not the things that we hate that causes suffering. It's those things that we love. And those are the things we have to give up. And that's when it gets hard. See, we think that we can keep the things we love and we can keep going on this journey and make progress. You have to give out one for another. Sacrifice, you have to sacrifice this for that. Something has to be given up in order for more room to be made for the higher things. Selfishness has to be given up for selflessness. Pleasure has to be given up for peace. If you love pleasure so much, that's okay. Just know that that same pleasure is what is causing you not to be at peace. So either you hold on to it and you don't get peace, or you give up that pleasure and you migrate towards peace. A lot of us can't think past pleasure. We think no pleasure, then what is there? If I can't feel good, if I can't do that, then what is there? We use pleasure as an escape. So when you give up pleasure, you'll have to face all the things that you've been hiding right behind pleasure. And that comes with it. You have to be willing to, and you can do it. Trust me, you can do it. It'll seem impossible at times, but it's nothing that you can't do if you don't keep trying. If you keep going back and back and you do it again and again and again, it's nothing that cannot be accomplished. I'm telling you. All right, next we have patience and endurance, and that goes back to when you give up that pleasure, it's going to be a great sense of pain because you're attached to it. Anything you attach to, once you give it up, it will hurt, it will sting, it will cause sorrow. And that's just something you have to accept. There's no way around. You can't get past suffering without going through it. The way this dude made a quote, I can't remember who, but says the best way out is always through. So the best way out of all this suffering and pain that you feel whenever you give up pleasure is right through it. You got to go through it. There's no way around it. You can't tiptoe and go to the other side of it. You have to go right through it, right through that very pain. Go right through it. Go through it. You'll learn a lot through it, not around it. There's nothing to learn around it. It's only learning through it. And number 5, we have faith. Faith is so important. Without faith, there's no possibility beyond where you are now. There has to be some faith in something, in some way. At least faith that you can overcome the situation you're in. There has to be faith. Without faith, there's no grounds to build on. There's nothing to work towards. So you have to have faith. You have to believe genuinely in your heart. Believe and know that though I may be in pain now, though I may be in great suffering now, beautiful days are ahead of me if I just live rightly, if I do good and I avoid evil. That's the thing. You have to make sure you're doing the good and avoiding the evil. But in order to know what's good and what's evil, you have to meditate on it. You have to be alone a lot. You have to give a great deal of your time to solitude and being alone. That has to be a great deal of your time. So it's not that you can't have a relationship and practice this. You can. You definitely can. But you have to have that in mind, that I'll give this up even for this. I'll even give this relationship up for this practice. That has to be the number one thing. The relationship cannot be number one. It has to be the practice. So you can have a relationship, but know that that's all secondary. Everything else is secondary. It's the practice, it's the faith, it's the endurance, it's the way I'm going to live my life, it's the meditation, it's the discipline and taming the senses, and everything else is secondary. Everything else is just like icing on the cake. So that's the big five, and I want to add a few additional comments. So the best way on this path, I'm going to give you a way. So you have to study and you have to see your top 5 attachments. So that's the thing I recommend you do for the next few months, weeks, years. Study and see what are the top 5 things that I'm attached to. What are the top 5 things that I love the most? And I'm going to give a list of a lot of people's, a lot of common ones. So I'm going to say number 1, a lot of us are attached to looks, our own looks and others' looks. If that's on yours, then you can go ahead and see if that's something that you're attached to, because that causes you suffering and pain. And it doesn't seem like that's a problem, but just study it and look at it. What else? So we got looks. We have sex is probably number 1. Number 1, sex and relationships. We're going to put that in one category. I don't know for women, but for men personally, it's the sex. It seems for women, a lot of it is the relationship. So sex and relationships, that's the top. That's the another attachment. A lot of us may not think, well, this is a good thing. It's a relationship. That's beautiful. This can be a beautiful thing, but just look closer. It's not that it's bad in itself. It's the things involved with it, the attachment to it. It's the constant worry about the other person. It's the getting angry when you see someone else speaking to this person, when you see someone else looking at this person. It's this sense that this person is yours and they're for you. They're yours. That's the problem. It's not the relationship. It's all these things that come with it, the parts, the anxiety when you're not with them. That can be a bad thing that's causing a lot of people suffering. The thought of them leaving you and you being left alone without them, that's a great cause for suffering. And that stems from the very fact that you're in that relationship. Without that relationship being there, none of the problems will be possible. So that's another thing is relationships. A lot of us are attached to sports. Sports is one. It's not a huge one I would really worry about too much. I wouldn't worry about that one too much. But the top 2, I'm going to definitely say sex and relationships is causing a great deal of suffering around the world. How you look and how others look. You're constantly, whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously, you're constantly comparing yourself to the people around you. Most of the time, I know that I've seen myself doing it, constantly comparing myself, how I look, seeing how they look, looking at women, seeing how they look, seeing them as objects to fulfill my desire. These are problems because this can cause you a great deal of suffering because you'll always have to go out and you'll always have to seek that pleasure again and again and again. And it can cause them suffering. I know myself, I was in a relationship my last relationship, maybe about 3 years ago. And in that relationship, I couldn't even see the suffering I caused. But now that I look back, it's like, wow, how blind these things can make you. How blind can your want for sex make you? How blind to the hurt you cause others. How blind, man. How blind it can make you. So that's another thing. I think I'm gonna end the video off there. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember the top five. The big five, the big five for spiritual practice is religion / a set way you live, tools / meditation, discipline and taming the senses, patience and endurance, and faith. These are the things you need. Practice on. Keep pushing. You can overcome anything that's in front of you. Any circumstance, you can overcome. Any mind state that's troubling you, you can overcome. Any fear, you can overcome. Any addiction, you can overcome if you persevere. Perseverance is the key. Don't stop trying. If that's anything I could tell you, don't stop trying. Keep going. Go again. You feel like you can't go any longer? Go back, go again. You feel weak? That's okay. Sit with it. And then go back and go again. Keep going. Keep trying. Don't ever give up the effort. Don't ever submit to circumstance. Your mind can rise above anything. Your mind is powerful that way. It can go up beyond anything you can imagine. We can rise above all these things. Just keep going. Thank you for listening to my YouTube channel, I Talk Truth. May all be free from suffering. You guys have a good one.